Hi, my name is Hank Willis Thomas, and I am a person. I think the moment that I feel the most authentically true about me becoming an artist is now, and I think it's because so much is changing in the world right now that I feel it's necessary to be creative, like as a survival tactic. My artistry is becoming intimately involved with my identity in a very different way than it has before. My most important teacher would have to be my mother, Deborah Willis, who is an artist, an art historian, and curator, and a wonderful mom. She continues to inspire me and leave a huge impression on me as far as her curiosity, her mentorship, her tenacity, her brilliance. She opened many doors in my mind, in my heart, and in my life, and so I would have to say she is my most important teacher. There are thousands of artists probably who've had major influences on me. Two that come to mind are Larry Sultan, an incredible photographer who was also a professor of mine, who had a wonderful way of looking at the world, which was both intimate and curious and funny, and he just was like one of the coolest people I ever met. Rashid Johnson is another person who has had a huge influence on me because we have been peers, and watching him develop over the past 20 years, it's been amazing, not only as an artist but as a person, and seeing how his art practice is kind of an extension of his personhood has been really influential for me.
That's the song of the sky tribe walking the earth, faint smiles to open roars of joy.
I would say Christian Marclay's The Clock is a work that I have always been kind of dumbfounded by because of the expansiveness of this 24-hour video installation that goes like minute by minute using all of these thousands of film clips. And I remember going to see it like in the middle of the night, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and being mesmerized by like all of these different films where they're just like talking about what's happening in that minute. And there definitely are artworks like Robert Indiana's Love Sculpture that resonate with me deeply, from like feeling like almost like a primal memory of like, ah. And there are artists like Wageshi Mutu who makes these incredible paintings and collages, who was one of the first people I knew personally who went from making artwork as a student to making artwork that I was like, oh wow, I guess this is a different game. An artwork of mine that I have to say The Embrace, which is a monument to Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King, installed at Boston Common. It was really fascinating to be there when we debuted it and have this amazing kind of response to it, and then having the next week this kind of online response, which was, if you haven't seen it, look it up. It was pretty hairy, and having to have this dual experience of like kind of knowing what it's like to have the phenomenological experience as myself, as an artist, as a person, and also being there with all of these other people, and knowing that I think 6 million people are going to this place every year, and having the city of Boston embrace this work, and then, you know, the news and how media and popular culture and social media can like create a perception of something that doesn't really connect with what's happening in real life was really kind of an amazing experience for me. But I just really am in awe of that work. One of my collaborators, his name is Ryan Alexiev, who was an amazing influence on me because his critique was always both biting and funny. That really shaped the way that I kind of approach collaboration, is that this need to be brutally honest, but also to be kind of warm with my collaborators as a way to kind of get them to engage. I worked with one of my former professors named Rashid Johnson on a project called Question Bridge, and that was probably one of the most influential experiences I ever had with our other collaborators, Bayate Ross-Smith and Kamal Sinclair. We worked for 10 years on this amazing project that really invited at least 300 other collaborators. Now I'm thinking about my collaborators, Kambui Olajimi, who's an incredible friend and artist who doesn't understand the word impossible. We'd be making something, I'm like, no, we can't do that. He'd be like, but why can't we? You know, and always loving the idea of making the impossible an opportunity or a goal. I don't know if I've ever made a choice that was not influenced by someone else's feedback or critique. I like to ask too many people questions. And like, yeah, one of the ways that Ryan and I would always ask someone for feedback, like, does it suck? I mean, do you like it? I mean, is it terrible? And like, try to ask for the worst possible critique from people. And so I often like to get a broad range of feedback from people. And I feel like if someone gives me the harshest feedback and I still like it, then I know that I'm really onto something. But if more often than not, people will give me harsh feedback and I'll be like, it'll send me a different direction. I wish I could be an artist who did not need feedback. I wish I could be a person who didn't need feedback. Well, there was a book that I came across during the pandemic called Finite and Infinite Games by a person named James Carse. A finite game is a game that comes to an end when someone either wins or loses, and an infinite game being a game that has to always change, where the rules always have to change in order to stay in a state of play. And this idea of being in the infinite game, not necessarily being kind of confined or thinking about winning or losing as much as staying in a state of play, that really changed me a lot. And at its best, an artist practice is, for me, being in a state of play, a state of improvisation, even if the rules are made up by the artist and they're really kind of confined. If they can still find a groove within it to play, that's really exciting, and that's what I aim to be doing as well. An exhibition that I went to that had a lasting influence on me was called We Want Miles, and it was at Cité de la Musique in Paris. And it was an exhibition about the life of Miles Davis. And it was really transformative for me because I went in there thinking I'd be there for like 20 minutes and I was in there for like 3 hours. I had no idea that an exhibition about a musician could have so many different visual components that would be compelling to me, and the way the installation kind of made viewers feel like they were kind of on this journey of this artist's career was really mind-blowing to me. Well, there's an exhibition that I was in called 30 Americans, which was at the Rubel Family Collection in 2008. That exhibition and another exhibition called Frequency, which was at the Studio Museum in Harlem. I didn't realize how big a deal they were in the moment. And there was something about the wonder of like kind of being introduced to these artists and their worlds, and then my world expanding exponentially from those experiences. And everyone was having that same experience at the same time. Wow, what do I think my influence has been as an artist so far? Apparently it's been much bigger than I think it is. From my perspective, you know, I'm always still striving and doing my best to make something that I feel like is important. I've met someone who was in their 30s and like, we studied you in high school. And I was like, ooh, I guess if high school teachers 20 or 15 years ago were teaching my work, I guess I've had an impact on generations. The thing I've taken away from watching artists throughout my life is that there is no timeline, there is no predictable pathway, And I always say that if you want to be successful as an artist, don't be realistic, because the chances that you will ever become successful aren't realistic. So why actually apply a logic that is to an illogical framework? And also, the success is always going to be in your heart, in your mind, not in the mind or the validation that you get externally. So I know people who are extremely successful that still feel like they haven't made it. But that's also, I think, because so many artists are chasing this kind of infinite, or they're playing the infinite game.